Q.
2, 1, and we are recording episode 556 with Dr. George Fareed, who wasn't going to come back on here till after your Italy trip, but I thought it was so interesting at how openly Joe Rogan is being slandered for talking about using ivermectin and beating COVID in 3 days, and everyone, it's a horse dewormer, and the nation's hospitals are overflowing with ivermectin overdoses. And because I'm not a doctor, but you are, figured
Yes.
I would have you on. And for everybody listening, and to establish credibility so they know who you are, please introduce yourself real quick.
Okay, I'm George Fareed, a family practice physician in the Imperial Valley of California and a frontline COVID treater since March 2020. And we've treated 7,000 people, Dr. Brian Tyson and myself, and have a 99.96% recovery. So we're very proud of that. It's a multi-faceted or a sequential multi-drug treatment based upon the algorithm of Peter McCullough and the American Association of Physicians and Surgeons, based upon Vladimir Zelenko's landmark work in New York initially, and Didier Raoult before that in France. And it deals with what Joe Rogan did for himself. Our treatment philosophy is to use multiple agents. The Delta variant is a hard variant of COVID-19, of the primary COVID-19 that was unleashed in the world by China and created in the lab, almost certainly by gain-of-function research. So the Delta variant has to be treated with multiple agents, like Rogan took, with monoclonal antibodies, the antiviral agents, and nutraceuticals. And he chose ivermectin, which is when used in the proper dosing, a very safe dosing, 0.2 to 0.4 milligram per kilogram per day over a 2 to 5 day period. It's very safe, and it is an antiviral that clearly is shown to bring down the viral load when it's added in with monoclonal antibodies and with other agents like hydroxychloroquine. And the way we use it, it is very effective in inhibiting the multiplication in the early period, and that's what he did. He was a great example that should have been lauded by the public and the press, and not reeled over the coals for doing something that would be a bad example for others around the world and around the country. He's totally upright and reputable and commendable for what he did and how he recovered so quickly. It's quite a good example of what can be done. Should be always done.
Could you address what seems to be the narrative right now of ivermectin's dangerous, it's only for horses, it's, if you take it, you're going to end up in the ER. Could you address it and explain its well documented and widely accepted and effective uses?
Well, what's gone on is what went on with hydroxychloroquine, and is tried to stigmatize and suppress that agent, which is really there at the beginning and would have saved hundreds of thousands of lives if it had been used properly. And that's because of the commitment to big pharma or to some other agenda that wants to keep this pandemic going and make people fearful. And so it's totally irrational. It's totally criminal, quite frankly. It's the mainstream media picks up on it because they can talk about something negative and raise people's fears in the process, and not really getting people to really look into it properly, where it's totally unfounded. And so I think the effort has been to do anything that's possible to push the vax agenda forward at any cost. And the cost is the collateral damage of a lot of people being ill and suffering and having long COVID, long haul condition, or being killed or die.
Have you ever seen anything like this in your entire career of a coordinated suppression of alternative generic treatments to something that is killing so many people being suppressed? And I think we talked about this last time. It slowly is moving from what looks like uh, conflicts of interest to crimes against humanity. They're openly blocking these things that work and are effective, have been tested for decades and are available, but are
Mhm.
pushing for only the expensive, unproven, dangerous treatments.
Yeah, no, I've never seen anything like this, and I never expected to ever see anything like this. And it's um, it's a battle to the end, actually, where the truth has to prevail. And so we hope to accomplish that in some way in Rome at the International COVID Summit next week on the 12th through the 14th of September. And that's what I've been working on my presentations for there. And I've got a lot of material that will be presented. We'll present our findings and our experience in our fever type clinic with Dr. Brian Tyson, where we set up a clinic that should have been the model for fever clinics all over the United States, of bringing people in early and reassuring them and getting them diagnosed and treated properly as right at the beginning to prevent them from going to the hospital. So it's I hope it's going to be very successful. There'll be a lot of great people there at that event.
And you've said that you have to tweak your presentation or speech for it. I think you said that last time, or update. You said you have to.
Well, just what I have, I have one thing. I've finished the book that, at least it's copy edited, the book that Brian Tyson and I wrote on the um, on the pandemic here in the Imperial Valley. That's available soon. I hope to have it as a access through an URL there for people who'd like to read it before a hard copy comes out. But that's one thing, tweaking that, getting all the editing done. It's a doctor's story, COVID-19 coming out of the darkness and into the for life, life and light, actually coming out of the darkness, something like that is the title. And then I have testimonies that are right here. Three sort of testimonies, and I have to sort of cull from these what I want to say to the Senate of Rome, of Italy rather, and hopefully they'll translate these into Italian so they can be reading them or look at them if they desire to do that. But I'll try to speak extemporaneously and just give the message of the experience we've had, the facts of all the work from us and others around the world has been that if you take good treatment early with repurposed medications and add in monoclonal antibodies where they're available, you'll recover quickly and you'll end the whole illness before you go to the hospital, before you, or even if you do go to the hospital, you'd be a much shorter hospitalization if this treatment is started later, and you won't die. You won't be put on a ventilator to suffocate eventually.
Will it take more cases like Joe Rogan? And I believe we touched on this last time we spoke. Will it take more high profile cases of this to start to, put holes in the dam of the whole blanket argument that no, it has to be vaccines, anything else is misinformation? Will it take more things like that? And or will it take things like you going to Rome to give your presentation on this?
I think it'll take all of that. I don't know that one more case of a high profile individual will be make a huge difference. It won't hurt, but its main thing is the honesty of it and the safeties that are taken into consideration, and the fact that the education widely that there has been a horrible crime committed to our world when they consciously suppressed early treatment in favor of the vaccine mandates or vaccine push, which is not the solution and it's a dangerous vaccine. Or they're dangerous agents, I should say. They're not. I would really don't even consider them vaccines, except that you do develop immune response to them, but you run the risk of the spike protein spreading through the body or being carried in atypical monocytes in the circulation for months and months, continually wreaking havoc in the body.
Could you expand on that when you said harmful agents? Is that what you mean, the spike proteins?
Oh, well, yeah, the spike protein, the S protein is the toxic substance of COVID-19. That's what triggers all the inflammation in blood vessels. Yeah. And then the work from Bruce Patterson and his colleagues in the COVID long haulers program that he backs with his company, they've developed a machine-based method for monitoring cytokines and in a quite comprehensive way, and verifying the release of specific cytokines that are associated with the inflammatory process of the monocytes carrying the S protein. That was never before appreciated, that it can hang around for a long time and create the acute inflammation, but prolonged brain inflammation and other organ systems affected. And now he's innovated with his people very remarkable treatment to block the attachment of these types of monocytes to blood vessels, and use agents that are available, repurposed again, that cure the condition in a really, really amazing way.
Do you I just had a brain fart, completely forgot what I was going to ask. Why is it that in places like the United States, where it seems that, you know, big pharma, the government, and the media are all in cahoots together, in bed together, to block any alternative treatments? What is it, perhaps I didn't understand, what is it that is happening in Rome that you're being brought, when it seems like every sort of power center in the world is shutting this down? Why is this sort of open arms in Rome, where you're going to?
I hope it allows it to be, the words to come out properly, such that the press and people covering it will spread the word properly and bring the big correction that's needed worldwide. That's and I think we've just been undermined by the huge big pharma push and control of our agencies like the FDA and CDC and NIH, and then people that are outside of the circle of empathy like Fauci and others who actually don't treat COVID-19 patients. They can accept people dying and suffering as just collateral damage.
It's absolutely insane. Could you, and I meant to ask you this last time, and last time you came on, you discussed the early treatment, you know, the different effects it had on the cell, and how it, all above my head, but fascinating to listen to nonetheless. And what was it, the endoplasmic reticulum and the folding of the proteins and the chaperone proteins. Could you explain to me and to my listeners what monoclonal antibodies are? Because I haven't the slightest idea.
No, that's a simple concept. Your body produces antibodies to protect the body, to react to foreign agents or substances and pathogens. And those are big protein molecules that are that have light and heavy chains, and they actually they're used for other purposes too than just that. They bind to specific antigens or structures that they are adherent to, basically. And so the monoclonal antibodies are produced in vitro, in the cell, in the test tube. Basically, they come from a B cell. Those are cells that produce antibodies in the lymphocytes, and then they're cloned, so they're called monoclonal. They just don't have, they're not multiple different antibodies, it's just one. And so that's very specific type of molecule, very, very large. And in medicine, they become very broadly used for many purposes, where they can help stop inflammation in our rheumatoid arthritis or lupus or autoimmune type conditions, or they can stop in osteoporosis. They can block the cell type that triggers breakdown of bone, because the monoclonal will bind to that trigger for the activation of those cells. But in the case of infections, they're able to bind and absorb, basically, and take it out of out of action, viruses or bacteria or other types of infectious agents. And so the monoclonals in this case they were derived from human B cells. They're not from from an infected individual, not from the immunized individuals. And so they're actually very active in their ability to bind the active virus in a way that vaccination doesn't allow the antibodies to do so, or doesn't achieve that. And they seem to be still effective for neutralizing, as it said. Neutralizing means it binds and takes it away, the Delta variant or other COVID-19 virus. And so that's what they are. They're just in the ones that we have through Regeneron or Eli Lilly. They're two different monoclonal antibodies, and so they provide a bit of a breadth because they're two different ones. They're not just one. So that makes it even more powerful. If they had 3 or 4, that would be even better, probably. But they just have 2. They're very costly to make. There's a lot of genetic engineering involved because they're humanized. If they're produced in what's got a hybridoma or in a mouse cell that then they convert the heavy chains of these antibodies to human heavy chains. And so their constant regions are not foreign to the individual getting the infusion.
Is it possible for, like you talked about last time, vaccines driving the variants? Is it possible for your early treatment protocols? Could that be driving any sort of variant? And if so, is that just a natural thing that every treatment of every disease drives some sort of mutation?
No, it's a good question. If you're using drugs like in the HIV, we're using multiple drugs that are suppressing the replication of the virus. If the individual becomes non-compliant, the viral level rises, mutations occur because it's growing, and then when you put those drugs back in, there may be mutants that that are not inhibited by the drugs. In this situation with these agents we're using, that doesn't seem to happen. Fortunately, they're not able to develop a resistance to it's a short time frame that it's being used. It's not over months and months. It's over days, and then they don't need them any longer. So the virus doesn't have enough time to develop a resistance to these medications.
Is it, and I think it was you who said it, is it because, I think you explained it as, might have been hydroxychloroquine, it changes the actual like composition of like the substrate? Like if your body was the soil for plants to be grown in, it changes your actual, I guess, environment.
Yeah, and so does ivermectin, and so does voxamine. And so will other anti-COVID agents, because they work intracellular or they work on the outside on the receptor, interfering with its ability to bind the COVID or the virus to bind to the receptor that it needs for entry into the cell. But in any case, the hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, they have effects intracellular in different types of effects. And HCQ, hydroxychloroquine has more specific steps or effects that interfere with COVID-19 multiplication. And you were talking about the folding process of proteins. There's a very important chaperone protein called sigma-1 receptor in the inside the cell, in the what's called the reticulum, that allows proteins to be assembled properly. And when it's blocked by hydroxychloroquine or fluvoxamine, the COVID-19 proteins don't fold appropriately. And so you need those proteins folded to assemble the active virus. But HCQ has other effects too. And it brings zinc into the cell, and zinc's an inhibitor of the RNA polymerase of COVID-19 that replicates its genome, its RNA, and it's a inhibitor of the, it creates the endosomes in the cell to become more alkaline, which is not favorable for multiplication of the virus, among other things that it does.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, by using a multi-pronged, multifaceted attack, is that what prevents driving variation? Like, if it's like this cleaner kills 99% of germs and this one kills 99% of germs, well, you could use one, and then of the remaining 0.1%, what are the chances they also survive this? Is that by using like two different subsequent cleaners, is that a way to drive out like a hyper-specific,
yes,
like rebellious virus?
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
And someone add in these irrigations of the nostrils and preventing the viral load increasing in the mucous membranes with the providine, iodine rinse of the nostrils, or other rinses and gargles that have been recommended. But the actual antiviral medicines that I've been talking about are much more powerful than that, because they act within the cell, or they act on the receptor, preventing the binding.
So is that why you're seeing such a high success rate? It's because you guys have developed sort of a nuclear weapon.
Well, I wouldn't say nuclear weapon, but it's a powerful treatment, definitely, and it acts within hours. Actually, it's already benefiting the individual. That's why we see such a high success rates, and people don't mind taking the treatment, and they adhere to it very religiously, and that's a very important aspect of it also.
Now, is it possible, I've got you for 6 more minutes, is it possible that, are we going to see, just in the theme of being open-minded, are there potential side effects to your early treatment, or long-term side effects, or have these things been studied for so long that we're not going to see some freak side effect of ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine use like we're seeing with the vaccines, like Guillain-Barré syndrome, or the 17,808 people who are permanently disabled, or the 13,911 deaths? Or myocarditis? Are we going to see long-term side effects from your early treatment protocol, or have these drugs all been studied for so long that?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, no, we're not going to see long-term side effects from the medicines in our protocols, because they have been around for decades and decades, and treated billions of times, been used in billions of patients around the world. So that we know that they're extraordinarily safe, and they're heralded for their safety, actually, and their utility. It's just a matter of accepting that, and that it's not no comparison whatsoever to the side effects from the dangerous vaccines.
So it's only a matter of time then. You just have to keep pushing forward.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The truth will, like the glacier, it will slowly bulldoze the mountain. And it seems like that's what's going to happen. It's only a matter of time before you get a Joe Rogan character who comes out and goes, I beat this in 72 hours. And I mean, he has a 10 million person audience that are now going, what do you mean he beat it? I thought this was for horses. So it seems like it's only a matter of time before this entire facade of you have to take the vaccine and nothing but the vaccine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that needs to be dispelled. Absolutely, Tommy. Good point.
And it's you, and you talked about this last time as well, how you said they're leaky vaccines and you definitely shouldn't need a booster in its first year of use. What side effects are we going to see if they could be known about a fourth booster or a fifth booster?
Well, I think it increases the risk of getting a long haul vaccine condition where the spike protein gets picked up by these atypical monocytes, and then it's spreading the inflammation around as if they'd already had COVID-19, and they have long haul because of that, and injuries to organs and to basically detriments to their health. So that's doesn't serve any purpose whatsoever.
If you could use your crystal ball, when do you think the tide will start to turn? When do you think your early treatment protocols will start to get more momentum and we get more Joe Rogan type instances? When do you think that will, if it can be known? When do you think?
I hope it's after next week. We're very lucky.
Beautiful.
I think that's what I'm hoping for. I'll just be one small component of this event, but I have a chance to get my word out, and I've got put a lot of work into how it's going to be presented for the best reception.
Beautiful. Well, as I said, I won't keep you over 30 minutes. And so,
thank you.
Dr. Freed, thank you so much. I'm sorry I was a couple minutes late. I don't know what was going on.
No, that's okay. Thank you very much, Tommy. It's always talking to you. Thank you for posting these.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. I'll send it to you. And please put it up on Twitter, because the Spotify views are still going strong despite being banned from YouTube. Spotify is still working. So
that's good.
Thank you so much, Dr. Freed.
Okay, you're very welcome, Tommy.
God bless. Stay safe, everyone.